Good evening, everyone. So I am going to be covering the last of your major topics. And we're going to be talking about, and some of you may recognize yourself in this photo, building community capacity. So when we look at community capacity, it's not just about the people in the community doing things, but it's also about the identity that you can give your community to make you feel that you are part of it, to give others a sense of that community, a sense of place, and a sense of identity that you show both within your community, to your neighboring communities, and to the rest of the world who comes to visit you here in your beautiful home. So, tiers of governance. Many of you will recognize that there are committees, councils, organizations. This was fairly complex, so one of the things I wanted to do was unpack it a little bit, understand who reports to who's responsible for the types of things that are going on. Can I see a show of hands for how many of you are part of either the town councils, the planning boards for either Pacific Beach or Mission Beach, or belong to any of the nonprofit organizations in the area? Can I see a show of hands? Good. So, I like participatory events, and so that's why I wanted to get you moving a little bit. So city sanctioned, we're looking at your planning boards, and these boards are responsible for providing advisory conditions, providing some recommendations to the planning department, and are sanctioned by the city for both Mission Beach and Pacific Beach. And then we're looking at your Parks and Rec department. You have a Mission Bay Parks Committee. And then finally, but one of your definitely important pieces here is the Business Improvement District with Discover PB and their role and what they do. And I'm going to talk about them a bit more and how all of you can actually help improve that relationship within the community and be able to get on board with many more projects. So representing the neighborhoods, we have the town councils and then organizations. And these organizations are really important. They do a lot of heavy lifting. They're going to continue to do heavy lifting, and what I'm going to encourage all of you to do is to begin rolling up your sleeves together, putting a little bit of elbow grease into your community, because that's what it's going to take to get some of this done. So one of the things that you already have are some collaborative conversations that take place on a monthly basis, and I would encourage you to maybe change the name, make sure that you're including your neighboring community members from Mission Beach in this, and to really think about coming up with a true shared vision. Simple, clean, and also one that encompasses everyone's voice. So making sure that it's an inclusive conversation, that everyone is a part of it, and that this vision really does set forth your future path with some very clear goals. Okay, maximizing resources for common goals. Now, not all of the organizations have big budgets, but some of them that are modest and others that are definitely substantial. By coming together, you have a very significant budget. So if you have a clear shared vision, then that budget gets you a lot more, a lot further, and a lot faster, especially if you're all on board together. So that's one of the things that I want to point out. Integrating your budgets, thinking about how you can do that. Not everyone doing separate projects, but rather coming together to really begin building that capacity. With all of those boards, councils, and organizations, you're already starting out with a pretty good number of people to begin building that capacity. And you'll continue to reach out to more people in your community, to bring them on board, to make everyone feel involved, and to make sure everyone is heard. And there are other ways to begin raising funds, right? So you do fundraisers now. You'll continue to do those. You can look for crowdsourcing as a way to begin to select projects and to find out which ones you want to prioritize, and then crowdfund them. So you'll know which ones everybody wants to take part in and is willing to chip a little more money into, or Kickstarter. These are great ways to begin building funds. And ways to engage. So the next thing we're going to talk about are the topics up here: meaningful participation, engage people where they go. This is an important one that I talk about often, and inspire citizens to roll up their sleeves. And that's an extremely important one because it will take a great number of people. So we've heard a lot from the different members of a lot of your organizations and your councils, and you are great advocates. Everyone has been advocating for things that are going to make your community much more livable. But we need to make sure that the people you're reaching out to, the people you're advocating for, and the people you're advocating to know that this is something meaningful. Know that you're going to come back to them and report back, that information is not going to get lost, and that their time is going to be well spent and well valued. Making sure that everyone feels like they are valued in the process is really important, especially if you want to keep them engaged in the future. So we want to make sure that it's fun. Everything has to be fun. Nobody wants to do it if it's not fun, right? How many of you like going to have your teeth pulled? Yeah, I didn't think so. So, we want to make sure that you're having a good time because you're going to come back and do it again. You're going to feel good about what you do, and you're going to want to do more for your community because of it. Ways to engage again. So, engage people where they go. I'm going to talk a little bit about this event, and I'm also going to share a little more about some other events. You have a lot of active groups in your community. There are bicycle groups, there are moms groups, there are a lot of other groups that spend their time in different places throughout your community. Might be on a bike ride, might be on a stroller walk, might be at a coffee shop where you might see open mics. We started out doing open mics probably about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We'd have them in coffee shops, and they function similar to an open mic. We'd pass around a sign-in sheet. We'd have a topic for discussion, but instead of singing or reading poetry, people would get up and share a story about an urban topic, whichever one we picked for that night. So this was working really well, but we weren't engaging as many young professionals as we needed to. So we sat and thought, well, we're young professionals. Where do we like to go? What's fun? The bar. And we change it up. We don't always go to the same place. Sometimes they're more restaurant-oriented. And we call it Urbanism on Tap now. And Urbanism on Tap is monthly or bi-monthly. And what we find is that we draw 50 to 60 young professionals and some experienced professionals as well. And our experienced professionals are wonderful because they certainly serve as mentors to those of us in the community who want to know a little more history, who want to have a better grasp and understanding of things that have happened in the past. And so that we don't have to repeat some of the things that have happened, they share that knowledge with us. And it's a great exchange, and they're great conversations. And again, it doesn't have to be a bar. If you like the coffee shop, you can go there. You can go to any place that you believe the people in your community like to go. Because if they're already going there, you might be able to just engage them in a great conversation. So this is an infographic that we did at one of our Urbanism on Tap meetings. An article had come out talking about some of the best urban places and how those metropolis have the ones with the largest number of breweries are the places that people are looking to live most. So San Diego happened to be one of our examples, so I thought that was pretty perfect to be able to show you here tonight. So largest number of breweries, in this group of cities. Now, we were talking about Tampa at the time, because that's where I'm from, so that's why you'll see some of the other Florida examples in there. But we love to look at San Diego often. We feel that San Diego and Tampa have some similarities. So inspire citizens to roll up their sleeves. So whatever projects you pick, get people engaged. Get them to roll up their sleeves. Most people like to pick up a paintbrush every so often. It's good. It's a nice physical activity. Young and old can do it together. You can make decisions about what those projects are. You can do demonstration projects. Show other people in the community the types of things that you'd like to be doing. They can be temporary, they could be permanent. They can begin to show examples of the types of things you want to identify your community by. So whether it's creating a street demonstration or, as Paula was suggesting, some of the intersections being able to be painted, this starts to give your community something to work towards together, as well as a very clear identity about the public spaces that you have. And programming public space. This is an important topic because in order to get everyone to work together, you need gathering places for this to continue to happen, especially as you build capacity. You also want to use this to help build an identity for your community and be able to bring more people together, whether those people are permanent residents or visitors. So underutilized spaces, vacant storefronts, and the idea of reclaiming your main street. So this is the Business Investment District Discover PB storefront, and this one certainly can be an identifier for your community. And so I encourage all of you to help make that storefront an identifiable piece along that main street of Garnett. So this one is really fun, and I thank Adam for sharing this with me. This is from Australia, and they have ping pong tables set up. They are permanent ping pong tables where people bring their own paddles and balls and hang out along the beaches and play ping pong. This is in San Francisco, so you can see people have taken over some public spaces and added the components that they like, things that identify their home and where they live. And this is the park area outside of your library. Does everybody recognize that? It doesn't have a lot going on in it right now, and I know that sometimes it's used for walking the dog, throwing frisbees, things like that, but it can be more. And if you think about what represents your community and the types of activities you'd like to see there and some of the other things that are around, you can begin to visualize some really interesting things. It also will serve as an anchor on Cass Street, which is one of the neighborhood greenways that Paula had shown you earlier. So you can start looking at putting playground equipment in that park or other active pieces of equipment. A new one is a lot of these permanent bikes where people can do that, or row machines and things. And then another one down by the waterfront. I know that this is phase 4. It hasn't gotten done yet, but starting to envision how this becomes a very utilized public space. So a little bit of sketching to show that you can not only turn it into a walkway and green space, but you can let those restaurants that sit there spill out through cafe tables and really transform the edge along the boardwalk. Vacant storefronts. So you have vacant storefronts. And they're on Turquoise, there's some on Garnett, there's some on Cass. A lot of them are in the bases of some of the new mixed-use buildings. So what can you do for those vacant storefronts? Well, there's a few ideas. One of them is that if you can have agreements with some business owners, you may be able to house some community organizations or community projects in those storefronts. And there's an organization called Renew Australia, actually, that has figured this out quite well. They have a fantastic website and a lot of do-it-yourself resources that show how they've come up with owner agreements, how they've also handled some of the other issues, the legal issues, the insurance issues, and things like that. So typically, the businesses that go in here, the community projects or community organizations, pay some kind of a discounted rate, or rents are donated, and if they are a 501c3, then oftentimes that rent can be considered as a tax-deductible donation by the property owner. So this is a really good solution to start looking at. It's also a program that would probably be great and very well served through Discover PB. because they already have a relationship with the business owners. But this is something that will need your help. Discover PB does have some capacity in terms of their budget, but in order to maintain that, they don't have as much capacity in terms of their staffing. So that's where all the other organizations need to come and partner, get together, and work together. So here's some more physical improvements. I really like the golf course. The mini golf seems like it would be fun. So when we start looking at some of the other activities, and you'll notice here, these are also parklets that are temporary parklets created for a national event called Parking Day. And National Parking Day is something I hope you will take part in next year as a way to begin trying out some of these ideas and looking at doing some pilot parklets, particularly along your main street, around Garnett and on Turquoise, because it's going to give you added sidewalk space, added pedestrian areas, added public realm, and that necessary gathering space that you need in order to really create community identity. These are some of the other ideas that you can do along Main Street. These are from Baltimore. This is something new from Baltimore, where they have crosswalks with hopscotch painted in them. So, and some of you may have heard me say, if hopscotch isn't your thing, I'm sure you could do waltz steps or some other fun footprints in your crosswalk. And these are a little more just about Parking Day. San Francisco actually has some great guidelines for parklet standards. And they take over parking spaces, or they can also take over some of those areas along your street which you have striped off and don't allow parking, and they just kind of sit there, underutilized, and keeping the, cars off of it, but then at the same time not allowing pedestrians to use it either. So this is a little bit of a way to expand that public realm into something usable for the people coming by. So, and a little information from the slide, it's just looking at being able to actually create some more park space in your community where often you don't have as much, especially in the North PB area where it's lacking. And in Mission Beach as well, you have restaurants and things along the main boulevard, and it would be lovely to see some of these places expanded so that you could allow restaurants to be able to put cafe tables out on them. And I think I have, here's another example here. And here's a big one. So you'll notice that sometimes they're grass, sometimes they're planted pots or trees. And here in Montreal, they've actually created a built wood boardwalk, but this doesn't have any major road improvement that's needed. You could do this on a weekend. So implementation. Being able to think about how to manage this. So success through scaling. Being able to keep it scalable, starting out small and getting bigger as you have success and as you build capacity, because the more people you bring along with you to roll up their sleeves, the more you're going to get done. So the first steps, discover, develop, and create your pilots. Figure out what those pilot projects are and start going after them. And then research, refine, get more partners, and if there's policy changes that need to happen, figure out what those are and start pushing for those. Commercialization, replication, exchange, you want to be able to make sure that these ideas are replicable. How many of these can you put in? How many parklets could you have? Could you have each organization create one? Could you have different community members create one? Could you hold competitions and have great ideas come out of those in order to create a new parklet? So, and as we get to here, you want to make sure that there's awareness, education, inspiration, and celebration, because you want to be able to celebrate the great projects that you've done. And finally, keep it fun. I can't stress that enough. The more fun you keep it, the more you're going to want to keep doing it, and the more everyone is going to go with you, because it needs to be something that is interactive, that you can all participate in, that you can all enjoy. Enjoy it while you're doing it, and then enjoy it after.